Hello and welcome back to another new edition of Windows and Current Affairs. And today on this edition of Windows and Current Affairs, we continue to embark over two important issues. The role of youth in sustainable development, in handling and empowering. Now they have their own say, now they have their own space, their own decision-making status when it comes to be in the driving force, when it comes to special issues, when it comes to sustainable development, when it comes to changing realities in Egyptian society. And they have their own vision, they have their own ambition. Of course, the Egyptian administration is empowering and enforcing youth in every possible way. And that's why even in universities, even students, before they graduate, they have very serious and important activities. And they have groups, and they have societies, and they have organizations through which they can reach out to people all over Egypt to be able to sustain development on every sphere, in every circle, to be able to implement the 2030 vision of sustainable development, to be able to do some societal or civil society work, to be able to sustain society in many ways. And today we're going to be talking with one of the very vibrant, very active group of youth. One of them is representing them, and she's live with us here in the studio. It's one of the school university student activities, and she is the head of the planning EYD, Egyptian Youth for Development. Her name is Neda Omar Mahfouz, and she is going to be giving us her insight about the role of youth in society, and in particular when it comes to empowering tourism. They have launched a campaign under the name of Egypt that you have never seen, or the Egypt that you have never seen before. We're going to find out what's the story about Egypt that you have never seen before, how they are going to promote for Egypt in that sense, and many other questions that I'm going to be handling with her. Good evening, Nada. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you so much for inviting me in here. It's such a pleasure.
I'm very happy to have you in my program. And first of all, I want you to introduce yourself as an Egyptian youth. You're still studying in university?
I am. I'm a pharmacy student.
Pharmaceutical?
Yeah, yeah. Also a returnee in one of the exchange programs. And I was an exchange student before, as well as I'm the head of planning department in EYD, Egyptian Youth for Development. It's one of the student activities in the Egyptian universities that I'm so proud to be part of it.
That's very good.
Yeah, thank you so much. And basically that's it, yeah.
So you have been yourself an exchange student.
Yeah,
and you told me even before air, if you were on air, that you were an exchange student and you spent a while in the United States.
Yeah, I am.
In Minnesota?
In Missouri.
Missouri, yes.
Yeah.
And you are pretty familiar with other cultures, and you have overseas friends, youth friends.
Yeah, I mean, my exchange year was just awesome. I had the chance to see many cultures, not just the American, because there were some other exchange students from other countries. So I was so lucky to see them all. I was so lucky to get to know more about other cultures, not just the American one, the European one, the Asian one. I've seen so many people I didn't even dream to see them. People from Belgium, people from Russia. I had my best friend from Italy. Of course, my American family, I was hosted there in the United States, an American family. So I was in like a direct contact with the American culture. So I get to know more about them, and I get to know how they act in this particular way. I mean, cultures just like iceberg. We see just the
outlook.
Yeah, right. But there is another ice deep inside the ocean. It's like the language, how they act in this way, their way of thinking. So I was so lucky to know all of this, not just see the American culture through the movies or the newspaper or this kind of stuff. Because, I mean, after all, we don't see the full truth. We have to see the full truth through like contacting with this culture.
And it's the other way around also. They have to see the full truth about us also. Because there are so many misconceptions about the Arabs, about Islam, about women in Egypt, especially that women have come a long way and they are so much empowered by the Egyptian administration, and they have sustained a very important status in decision making positions and all that. This might not be seen or touched by the international media. And that's the role of youth like you when they are in exchange program, to be able to reflect the true image about women in Egypt, about youth, about young women, about our educational status. And if we're far more better than any African countries when it comes to educating girls in rural areas. Education is very popular and girls are going to school freely on their free will. I mean, there aren't early marriages like they say. Of course, every girl continues her graduation, and they might marry after the age of 35. I mean, women are very sophisticated. It's not like the internet, some media outlets are profiling us.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I remember when I first traveled there, I was kind of different because I was brown. They thought that I'm different, I'm not American. So they say, where are you from? I'm saying I'm from Egypt. Say, Egypt?
You look like Latin American.
Yeah, kind of. So they told me, well, don't you guys like live in the pyramids and ride camels, and you don't get education, how you speak English well, and this kind of stuff? And I was like, no guys, we don't. We have education. We have a very good education actually. And we get to have our freedom. I mean, that's pretty awesome. And it was kind of weird for me to see how the people, like, I get to see Egypt in the eyes of others. I mean, people used to see Egypt as a desert, as uncivilized country. But let me get in here and ask you, do you think it's the problem of us as Egyptians? Because we as Egyptians, we probably know about the 45 states of the United States, or the 50 or the 45. We know the different presidents of the United States, and we know probably all the capitals of worldwide, and we know the histories of Europe, the histories of other countries, and we know about economies of countries and everything. And when we go outside, we find that we go to the United States and we see that people have very little awareness, very little culture, know nothing about other countries. So is it the problem of us as nations, or they did not have enough awareness, enough reading, enough culture about the histories of countries like us, especially that we come a way long, 7,000 years ago. Right. So I mean, when we talk about the American community, they do not read a lot. That's actually a problem over there. They don't read. They get all their information from social media and
all the programs.
Yeah, right. And it all spread rumors. It spread rumors about Middle East. It spread rumors about Muslims. They spread rumors about everything.
It's not the Americans, because they are very friendly nations.
Yeah, right.
It is some media outlets. Let us put it that way. But because we have so many phone calls, we need to ask you one question before we take a phone call. Okay. I want you to define what is EYD. This is our first question, actually. We didn't even ask you the first question. What is EYD, and what is the purpose of EYD in your university?
Okay, EYD, or Egyptian Youth for Development. It's
Egyptian Youth for Development.
Yeah, it's a student activity in our university. Our main aim, or our main mission, is to develop the character of the Egyptian youth. We teach them some soft skills such as presentation skills, persuasion, of course self-confidence and leadership. We want them to be ready to face the world outside. We want them to be ready to go around and see the world. I mean, we're trying to build the Egyptian character. That's our main mission. We give them sessions, we just talk to them. We're trying to give them some good information about ourselves and about the world, and then we take them to events, either with the government or with a private organization or something. And afterward, we get to see how the people are developing. I mean, if I just give them sessions and didn't give them the experience to go around and go to events, they won't know the real meaning of the sessions. They're not learning anything. Learning is by practice. So if I'm not practicing what I have learned, I didn't get to know anything. Yeah, that's
I haven't even asked you the question about your tourism campaign, which is very popular. I heard that you're launching a very popular tourism campaign, but let me take Mr. Hazem Al-Iskandarani. He's live with us here over the phone, and he's a tourism expert. Good evening, Mr. Iskandarani.
Good evening.
First of all, we want you to give us a full assessment about tourism 2018, 2019. How far have we come? Because on many spheres, tourism is taking a leap, and it's quite booming when it comes to several circles and several types of tourism.
Of course, when we look at tourism as an economical activity and as an industry, before 2011, this industry was flourishing very much in Egypt, to the point that it became one of the main three resources of foreign currency in Egypt. So it attracted a lot of investments in Egypt, as it also was the reason or the resource for more than 10 million Egyptians. Of course, after 2011, it was a big hit, a big trouble for the tourism in Egypt. Till maybe last year, let's say, or 2018, it started to move back forward after a long time, something like 8 years. It was about to be stopped in certain areas, like in Upper Egypt, for example. Now, cruises, hotels for cultural tourism. Of course, Sinai, after the plane that was attacked by missile teams, by terrorists on Sinai, the Russian plane. So this caused big damages to tourism. Actually, tourism is getting back, slowly but for sure. We can see today in the tourism of Egypt, the comeback of many nationalities who were familiar with the Egyptian market, but also we started to see some new nationalities from different continents, from all the continents of the world. So we can note the comeback of the Germans, the English, the Americans, many nationalities who came back after a long stop. Then we see new nationalities that appeared in the market, such as Far East, like Myanmar, like Philippines, like Thailand, Singapore. These nationalities were not used to come to Egypt, and it was not one of the major countries sending tourists to Egypt. Today, we can see them on the map of tourism in Egypt. They're sending big numbers of tourists every year. And also, the Chinese tourism started to flourish more, and we are expecting big number of Chinese tourists coming to Egypt.
Right. Of course, as we all know that His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is attending the 7th Tokyo International Conference on African Development, the TICAD, in Yokohama. And of course, in his speech, when he was addressing the conference, he gave a very, very important speech, and he talked about very, very important elements. Among them is the importance of the geographical location of Africa and the partnership between Africa and the other world states or the world countries. And he said that our geographical importance encourage and empower the flow of foreign investments and also the growth rates when it comes to economic venues. In that sense, tourism is one of the front economic venues for Egypt. How do you assess the Japanese tourism to Egypt, and if it's going to boom with this encouragement and empowerment of partnership?
Of course, the Japanese market in Egypt, in the tourism in Egypt, it was very strong. The number of Japanese who used to come to Egypt as tourists was very important. Actually, when we look at the figures today, they seem to be very low comparing to the period before 2011. But today we are targeting back the Japanese market, especially that the main reason of the stopping of the tourism, the Japanese tourism to Egypt, was the situation about security. So now, bit by bit, not only tourism is coming back, but in general, any investment. The Japanese government is making a lot of collaboration with the Egyptian government in the field of investment, in the infrastructure, in many, many fields. This will encourage by default the tourism, the Japanese tourism, to come back to Egypt and to flourish again as it used to be before 2011. So when our president went to Japan and started talking about the potential of Egypt, the importance, the geographical importance of Egypt. Of course, Egypt for the Japanese is the door of Africa. So we are talking not only about Egypt as tourism and investment, but also about the whole continent, which is very important, because when we talk about Africa, it's a continent, a very promising continent that possesses a lot of resources, either natural or human. And everybody knows that Japan is a country that needs a lot of natural resources, because their land needs a lot of resources. They don't have oil, they don't have gas, they don't have raw materials, which is the wealth of Africa. Okay, not only this, but they can invest in the African countries, among and above all, of course, Egypt. So I think that the Japanese will give a very big attention in the coming years to Egypt, not only in the investment in general, but also in tourism. And I think it will be a very promising period, the coming period, and the choice of the speech, or the words that our president chose to say in Japan are very promising and encouraging for tourists to come back to Egypt, and also for investment in different fields.
The opportunities that are wide open for tourism when it comes to forums and conferences like that, Egyptian, African, Japanese partnership, especially after Egypt have assumed the chairmanship of the African Union. Egypt are having over its shoulders the lead role, has retained this lead role once again, and is having over its shoulder unifying the whole continent together under only one umbrella, with no conflict of interest, only one interest, with benefits for all, and also sustainable development that is continuing until 2063. So how is that going to implicate it when it comes to a venue like tourism?
Of course, because the tourism is a very important tool to encourage investment. When the tourist coming from Japan visits Egypt, and when he comes here and starts to talk to the people here in Egypt and African people, and they start to see that the projects that Egypt is making together with the African continent, creating new roads, opening new lines of sailing or navigation in the Nile, for example, the road that will be made between Egypt and South Africa, covering all the African continent from the north to the south. All these information will spread word of mouth in Japan that Egypt is actually playing the main role, and if they would like to invest in Africa, they must pass by Egypt, or they must enter the African continent through Egypt. Also, the relations, the old relations between Egypt and the other countries, the neighbors in Africa, is very strong. So when we talk about investment coming through Egypt in the African continent, of course they will be welcome, and especially that Egypt is playing win-win relation with any African country. So we are searching always that win-win relation with any country without trying to exploit the resources of any country to the interest of the Egyptians, which was not the case of the countries who were there in these African countries. Their target was to pump up all the fortunes of these African countries without giving this the sharing side of the profits of the investments. So Egypt has a very good reputation, and we can say Arab Contractors as example of a company, an Egyptian company that represents this win-win relation in any business that is run between Egypt and any African continent. We see that the reputation of Egypt is very good in the African continent, and this is a very promising thing. We see that Egypt starts to get back to the African continent, and the collaboration is growing very fast. Back again after a long stop from maybe more than 25 years. Egypt started to be to keep aside from Africa, but now this is the comeback, the strong comeback of Egypt to Africa, and today we can say that the African continent is moving forward, led by Egypt, so that it could be a very important place for development, durable development in the whole continent.
Right. Mr. Hazem Iskandarani, you are a tourism expert. Thank you very much for your time, sir, in talking to Windows on Current Affairs. And going back to you, of course, Nada, we were talking about the EYD.
Yeah.
Of course, we know that EYD is, after all, it's a student activity.
Yeah.
But it's a foundation for you people to be able to be engaged in civil society, I mean, in civil work, and to be able to serve community, to be able to enforce development, to be able to stretch your hands to several causes inside the Egyptian community or the Egyptian society, to be engaged and aware of causes around you. How is that qualifying you for leadership, for practical life?
I mean, after all, what we're doing is to help our country. We want to make our country proud of us. When I travel abroad, I want to see I'm Egyptian, and I'm so proud of saying this. So having the opportunity to deal with what's happening in Egypt is a wonderful thing, and it's a wonderful experience. So, yep, and I'm so proud of having this kind of awareness and campaign that the president do for us. It's such a wonderful thing, and it's a good opportunity to give the Egyptian youth a leadership and a good role in the community.
You said the EYD is engaged in several causes or several campaigns. What are the main campaigns that you have achieved so far in EYD?
Maybe for Earth and a country you'll never forget.
A country you will never forget. I said it's Egypt you will never forget. It's almost similar.
Yeah.
Well, okay. What are exactly your duties? How is it divided over you people?
Okay, so in EYD we have committees or departments. I'm the head of planning department. Basically, we think how we want to do the next step, and we do it. We have another thing like marketing. We're marketing for our next step, and we invite people to join us. We have PR, the public relationship. We get to know more people through this department, and we have HR, and yep, that's all. I mean, I won't talk more about A Country You'll Never Forget because it's a wonderful campaign.
We're going to touch on A Country You'll Never Forget, but exactly what are you looking for behind the EYD?
We're looking to build the Egyptian youth character. We want to be like proud of who we are.
You're laying a foundation for the Egyptian youth character. I like this phrase. So you're building the Egyptian youth character. Well, you know why I like it? Because the Egyptian administration, and in particular President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, in the last youth forum that was taken, the International Youth Forum, he was talking about building the Egyptian character. Of course, it starts with youth, with the youngest generation. He talked a lot about building the Egyptian character and how to enhance it and empower it. And he said all the tools of the Egyptian administration and all the abilities are dedicated to youth, to be able to build the Egyptian character. We should invest on this Egyptian character.
Yeah.
So it seems that you are very much aware of this.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a wonderful step from the president to give us this honor to represent our country, and saying this gave us the motivation to do more and more and give all our effort to make this country proud of us. One of the quotes I truly like is stop acting small. You are the world, you are the universe in a static motion. It's said by Rumi. He's a poet. I mean, I believe so much in this quote.
Jalaluddin Rumi.
Yeah, true. I mean, I believe so much in this quote and how we really should think about who we are. We are the universe. We have so many things. We should invest in ourselves. We're full of talents and things we don't know about it. So we have to think about it just a little bit.
Okay, and if you'd like to talk about a country you have never seen or Egypt you have never seen, maybe you should change the title for me.
Okay, of course.
Okay.
I mean, a country you never forget, or Egypt that you never forget.
Thank you.
It's a campaign. It includes an exchange program. So we host people from some European countries such as Ukraine, Hungary, and Russia. In our families, or if they want to stay in a hotel, it's up to them. And we take them to some of the historical places, such as, of course, the pyramids, Khan Khalili.
You take them for a whole semester or for educational curriculums or what?
I mean, it's not something about the education. It's something about the culture.
Culture, okay.
Yeah, it's a kind of culture exchange. So most of them are graduated. So they don't have.
Can they be school students?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And how can I join? I mean, if I'm a school student, how can I join?
So we announce on our Facebook page that we have this program, and if you want to apply, you should do this and that, and yeah, that's it.
If you should I be qualified as a student, or if I apply, I'm going to take my turn?
I mean, of course, we have like a competition between the people who are applying, because we can't take anyone. We want someone with like a good character, an Egyptian character, because after all, we are like showing the Egyptian character. So we cannot just take anyone. That's when it talks about sending people, but about receiving people or hosting people from outside, we take.
So you send them in summer vacations?
Yeah.
For how long?
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah. When we host people over here, it's mostly about culture exchange, you know. So they get to know more about the Egyptian culture, more about.
They stay with Egyptian families.
Yeah.
But 6 months it takes from the time of a school year or a university, because usually the summer vacation is only 2 months. So 6 months is going to get into the school year or the university if it starts. So what happens in that case?
I mean, we don't have any access to this. I mean, we tell them, hey guys, you will spend 6 months in Egypt. If you want to apply, okay, it's up to you. If you don't, it's up to you too. So we don't have really this. It's up to them. I mean,
it's up to them. It's their choice. We're going to go to a short break to show you the country that you'll never forget. You know what is the country, of course, but we're going to go to that break and we'll come to continue our interview with Nada. But please, let's go to that break.
Welcome to Egypt, the most fascinating place on earth. Land of the pharaohs. Muse of the world. Travel back to ancient times. Hear the voices from the past. Marvel as you wander through what is widely considered the greatest outdoor museum anywhere on the planet. Meet the city of Cairo with its unique fusion of different cultures. Enjoy the all-year-round sun on one of the countless beaches. Lose yourself among the souks and markets to taste the flavor of Egyptian life. Explore the ancient tombs. Share the secrets from the past. Hold your breath as you stand before what is considered the greatest spectacle in the whole world. Live the Egyptian nightlife. Sail on a boat on the Nile. Or dive into an amazing world of color and beauty. From east to west, from north to south, visitors will find a unique place that will provide some of the richest experiences of their whole lives. Come and discover the land that has captivated the soul of the people throughout ages. An amazing trip you won't easily forget. Get inspired by the news of the world. Start your personal journey where it all begins.
Welcome back, and that's the country that you will never forget. Of course, Egypt, 7,000 years back in history, the old pharaohs and all types of history, the Islamic, the Coptic, and all which you can dream of. You can find it here on this very, very, very ancient land, and the modern one too. So our guest is Nada Omar Mahfouz, and she's head of planning department of EYD, which is the Egyptian Youth for Development, and she is studying. She's in her first year, all that, and she's in her first year in one of the prominent universities here in Giza. She's studying pharmaceutical
pharmacy
department, and of course you were talking about exchanging, the cultural exchange between Egypt and other countries. Europe,
mainly Europe.
The United States, and what other countries?
No, we just having an exchange programs with Europe, so with Russia, Hungary, and Ukraine.
But what about the States? You said you went to the States.
I went to the States on other program.
So you're studying?
Okay, 2 years ago I traveled abroad with an exchange program to the United States.
Okay.
And that's a thing, it's completely different between
But
EYD.
it was an experience similar to that
exactly. So I get to know more about how I will travel and how to get to know people. And when I came back, my friends told me about the idea of having exchange, but with Europe. So of course I was saying, of course, yes. So that's
that is very good. So you take that student, he should, of course it's a must that he is conditioned to be a student. It's the condition that he comes over, or he has to join under the condition that he is a student.
Not usually. Sometimes we take graduates. But when we take graduates, it's kind of easy for us, because a student, we will have more
dependent.
Yeah, if they're graduate. But if a student, they will be having a responsibility to keep them, you know. So we have to take them around. But if they are graduate, they will be more mature,
mature and more with a cultural background.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. What type of programs do you prepare for this visiting student? I mean, is it the Egyptian cuisine much more, the cultural circles? Is it, I mean, a fixed, very strict program, touristic program? I mean, are any other Egyptian institutions that are involved with you? Do you go to the Ministry of Tourism to be able to assist you?
Actually, we don't. We are self-funded, and we do all of this by ourselves. But we're totally happy if we get any help by the government. I mean, it will be such a wonderful thing. But all of this, we're doing it alone, us students.
I'm amazed of the ideas that strike to you guys. I mean, you're full of ideas. And from where we can see and observe what you're doing, the programs that you are enforcing, you could be one of the driving forces for the future in tourism.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's our country and it's our future. So we're trying to make it the best it could be.
Right. What other elements that you prepared in a country that you will never forget? Any other thing?
I mean, mainly we're taking them around Cairo, exactly, to see the historical places. I mean, we want them to see that Egypt is more civilized than they thought. Because many people think that Egypt is just a desert, and it's not true at all. So we're trying to make them see more and more about Egypt. And if there's any chance to take them outside Cairo, maybe Luxor or Aswan.
And you are in charge of this?
Yeah, I am.
It's over your shoulder. Best of luck. But also you have another campaign which is for education.
For education. We've done this campaign before last year, and we're doing it this year again. For education, where it's mainly competition between teams from universities of Egypt. Our university, of course, our team, and the other universities will nominate a team, and we'll take this team, and each team will make an education system or a mini education system, a sample, and we will compare which one of them is better, and yeah, that's it.
So you prepare rewards? Do you reward the people who are, I mean, the contestants, those who win or something?
I mean, of course, but the main award is to know how the youth are capable of, or how awesome are the youth. They're very capable of making an education system, a whole education system by themselves. So of course.
In what way?
In what do you mean, in what way?
I mean, are they represent their own visions of a new curricula, for example?
Yeah, of course. I mean, they have like the curriculum from kindergarten to secondary schools, and how it's going to do, or how it's going, the flow, how it's going to be. That's mostly it.
Okay. What about your campaign for Earth? I could see that you are very concerned with environmental issues and environmental causes, and you're very much concerned. You were talking with me earlier before we go on air. We were talking about the Amazon fires and how devastating and sad is it for the whole world to see distinct and rare species and wildlife and animals being killed and burned alive because of the greed of money when it comes to the Amazon fires in the forests and the deforestation and the causes that might lead to the burning of the forests. It's very sad to see these things, and you are really sharing these feelings with us.
Yeah.
So if you could give us your insight, for example, about an issue or a cause like that.
I mean, for me, it's a disaster. It's a real disaster. Forest, nature, environment, it's our future. That's how we're gonna live. What happened in Amazon forest, it wasn't just but a warning from nature that we should take care of it. We can't just ignore it for the money or for anything, for the power. No. After all,
how do you think youth could stretch their hands and raise their voices up to stand up to the rights of the wildlife in Amazon?
I mean, every one of us has its own power, so we should talk. We can't just stay calm and say it's okay, it's gonna be all right. No, it's not. It's not. What happened, it's a real disaster. And animals who died, oh my God, that's not okay.
And they are endangered species also.
Of course, yeah.
Very rare, distinct species. Where do you see the role of an international community like the United Nations?
I mean, the United Nations should have talking before about this. We can't just stay calm and then the disaster happen and then we start to talk. It's not going to work like this. We should talk earlier. We should do a step earlier. We're not waiting for the disaster to happen and then we're going to talk about it. It's not right.
Right. I guess we're running out of time. It has been so
Thank you so
amazing and very informative talking to you, and I hope we could extend this special edition into more editions to come with you.
Sure.
Nada Omar Mahfouz,
Thank you so much.
you are a head of planning EYD, which is the Egyptian Youth for Development
Yeah. Thank you so
program
much.
or department in one of the prominent universities in Giza. Thank you very much for
Thank you
coming.
so much. I'm
Best
so
of
happy
luck.
to be here with
Especially
you.
with your Earth program.
Yeah,
to
I mean, it's one of my favorites.
And on a promise that you rise up your voices to be able to stand up to the causes of standing up to the rights of animal and wildlife in Amazon.
Yeah, of course. Thank you
Deepest
so much.
condolences to the wild Amazon fires, which is very, very saddening to the whole world.
Yeah, I mean, we're sending our prayers to people who live there, who really saw the disaster. I mean,
And raise their voices,
Yeah.
that's true. Thank you very much,
Thank
Nada.
you.
And I guess this brings us to the end of this edition of Windows and Current Affairs. Until we see you next week, that's a goodbye. Thank you very much.